Extensive cross-platform coverage of the U.S. market close starts right now.
And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Scarlett Fu. We're counting you down to the closing bell, and here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast where we're joined right now by Carol Massar, the pride of Barnard College, and Tim Stenovic. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, originals, and a partnership with YouTube. Am I forgetting something?
I think you got it all.
Check.
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah.
I try.
Bloomberg.com. How about
Every
that?
now and then.
Yeah, Bloomberg.com, folks.
Yeah,
you can
there
watch
we
us
go.
on Bloomberg.com, right? I think.
Yes.
Yes, of course
Yes.
you can.
And on the app.
Of course
I
you
think you
can.
better know.
Not the pride of Barnard anymore. What an interesting day. We've got stocks down.
Were you the pride of Barnard back in the day?
Most
You
certainly
have
was.
to ask that. Thank you,
I
Scott.
have to ask your old professors.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on.
That would actually be some real research. We were talking a little
I did fairly well.
fairly well.
Look where I am. Look at where I landed.
Well,
How's
yes, you've done great, Carol.
I'm in great.
You've won so many awards.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that instead of the markets?
No, let's talk about the markets. Hey, you started it.
I did.
I feel like I'm with my brothers. So here we go. Interesting day. We've seen certainly investors moving into the banking area. We've had a banking conference going on, so we're getting commentary. Citi, that news certainly got everybody's attention. Crypto, right? Bitcoin going about 44,000. Just been an interesting day in terms of where investors have been moving, kind of reacting in some cases to some fundamentals.
At the same time, seeing some selling into the close, especially on the NASDAQ. Surprised that the softness in the ADP report that we initially led to some optimism and a risk on trade didn't necessarily stick for the day, but I guess everybody's looking to Friday. And
Poor ADP. Nobody loves that report.
They did earlier in the day.
They just kind of blow it off.
I actually love it. I mean, I know because the problem is people always look at it as being the definitive predictor of what's going to happen with the monthly report, but you can't do that. I mean, there's a lot of other data in there that's important beyond that headline number that I think does provide a lot of insight. So there's my plug for the fine folks at ADP. Meanwhile, not necessarily a fine day in markets with all of the major indices finishing the day in the red. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down about 70 points or 0.2%. The S&P 500 down 18 points or 0.4%. The NASDAQ Composite lower by about 0.6%, while the Russell 2000 going to finish the day modestly lower by 0.2%.
All right, digging a little bit deeper into the indices. You mentioned the Russell, Romaine. So kind of an even split in terms of winners and losers in that index. And if I look at the S&P 500, same story. A little bit to the upside, 277 names to the upside, 223 to the downside. But it's interesting, despite kind of finishing at our lows in terms of the headline, we did see some buyers in this market, Scarlett.
We did, and some of those buyers headed into safe havens like utilities, the utilities index or sub-index here, gaining 1.4% on the day. Consumer durables, that's mainly home builders, lifting that group up by 1%. Consumer services also doing well. On the downside, with the drop in WTI below $70 a barrel, you have 22 out of 23 members of the S&P 500 energy index lower. The exception is Kinder Morgan, which is a pipeline company. Chip companies and software services companies also lower by about 1%.
All right, to the individual gainers we go. Citigroup on that list, definitely finishing way off its highs of the day when it was up more than 5%.
You did 4 again. 4 gainers.
You don't like that, do you?
All right, I'm going to go fast, okay? I promise.
She just makes me look bad.
If you don't interrupt me.
Okay.
All right, Citigroup up 2.5% in today's session.
Must not interrupt.
You just couldn't resist. The CFO saying at that Goldman Sachs U.S. Financial Services Conference that the company's on track to deliver full-year revenue in line with the firm's earlier guidance, although at the lower end of that $78 to $79 billion target. Nonetheless, investors liked it, up 2.5%. Airlines, another conference underway. Delta sparking a rally in the airline sector. That stock finishing up 3.5% on the session. Delta coming out reaffirming its full-year adjusted earnings per share forecast, actually ahead of a Morgan Stanley consumer conference. So we'll look for some headlines as that conference gets underway. Walgreens Boost Alliance. It was.
It's underway, girl.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
they spoke today.
Okay, sorry. Well, thank you for that.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You can interrupt me on that kind of stuff. Walgreens Boots Alliance, top in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100, although I think it's kind of moved down a little bit among the top gainers in the S&P. It's down more than 40% year to date. It's kind of tagging on a rally, a 2-day rally of CVS Health, which is up, as B of A says, CVS has appropriately reset expectations for earnings growth over the intermediate term. So I don't know. That's what some of the analysis was. And then Starbucks, I had to mention, record losing streak of 12 down days.
It's over.
Yes, dun da da da, up 1.6% in today's session.
Why?
It just
Because it can't go down every day.
It just is.
The answer is because it can't go down.
Because we never
every day.
answered why it was down for 12 days. I
There
thought
was
you maybe could
concern
answer
about,
why
I
it was
think it
up
was,
today.
analysts said there was a concern about cooling sales.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could say
Maybe
that about
cold
so
brew.
much, right?
I don't know.
Stock lost 11% though in that 12 down day losing streak. So maybe people said, okay, now it's time to buy. I don't know. It just is. Sometimes
Okay.
it just is.
It's a reversion to the mean. How about that?
Nice.
Tim, what do you got?
well, maybe people need
how
to
many
buy
movers you
more Jack Daniels or Woodford Reserve, because the worst performer on a percentage basis in the S&P 500 today was the parent company of those two alcohol brands. Brown-Forman finished it down 10.4%. Actually, its worst day since March of 2020. That's how far back you have to go to find a day where it fell by more than 10.4%. The company did report earnings per share and net sales for the second quarter that trailed estimates, even though expectations were low. Brown-Forman also cut its organic net sales and operating income forecast for the full year. Investors selling that stock today. Old Dominion Freight Line, among the worst performers, the third worst performer on the S&P 500 on a percentage basis. The company did report year-over-year drop in revenue per day in November. Shares finished the day down by 5.6%. And then Asana, the application software company that only went public a few years ago, finishing the day down by more than 16%, falling the most in more than a year. The company did report revenue for the most recent quarter that came in below estimates. Analysts said that there could be there's still a weak economic environment that could be affecting the company's stock price and, of course, the company's business. There are concerns that growth could be sluggish as a result of the report that we saw late yesterday. HSBC and Morgan Stanley each cut their price targets on the stock. Shares down by, more than 16% today.
And we should point out we saw something similar from some of the other software companies as well today. Maybe that's the start of some degree of a trend here. Let's check in on the Treasury market right now, because you are seeing a bit of a rally, particularly on the longer end of the curve, or resumption of that rally, I should say. Modest gains on the day that push yields down on the 10-year by about 4 to 5 basis points, and on the 30-year by about 7 basis points. Now, we should point out, Carol, that this does seem to be that positioning that is now starting around the Friday morning jobs report here in the U.S., where people really are staking out their positions as to whether we get a hot report, a cool report, or something in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Looking at Chewy in the aftermarket, guys, it's down about 9% here as it reports earnings. Company's third quarter net sales, it's light, 2.74, just slightly light, 2.74 billion versus the estimate of 2.75 billion. Third quarter adjusted EBITDA, 82.1 million, estimate 65.2. Trying to see why investors are selling. I mean, the stock's down 50% this year, about a 20% short on this position. So looking for a little bit more in terms of an outlook or something, but stock down about 5% here.
Well,
People not paying up for their pets, that's unthinkable.
well, we should point out that the net margin did contract in the quarter too,
Did it?
so that,
Okay.
that could be an issue.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at GameStop, which doesn't have any earnings. And again, it has a loss for the quarter. Adjusted loss per share for the third quarter, 18 cents. Analysts were looking for a loss of 7.7 cents. So that's a lot worse than expected. Net sales for the period, $1.08 billion. Analysts were looking for $1.18 billion. So a miss on sales and a miss on the bottom line as well.
Sorry.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
They're not even having a conference call today.
Yeah, sorry, I have my hand raised, Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how this works on the show, but yeah, there's no conference call. And speaking of that, did you actually look at the press release?
Yeah, it says
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's like 7 lines long.
And then the last line is the company will not be holding a conference call today, but you can look for the 10Q.
I would just like to point out the disclosures, the regulatory disclosures are actually longer,
way long.
than the press release itself here. When is the turnaround?
So what does that say
It hasn't
about
happened
this
yet?
company?
When GTA 6 comes out, that's when the turnaround happens.
But
I know, we're laughing because we don't know when that's going to happen.
yeah.
In all seriousness, what is the strategy? He's never really articulated it, at least not to a way that folks liked. And I think there was this idea that, well, with certain types of investors that have gravitated to the stock, you don't really need to do all the rigmarole with these long press releases and conference calls, because people were buying into a story or narrative. But I haven't heard that story or narrative in some time.
Well, there's stories, there's narratives, and then there's fundamentals, right?
Not for this stock, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean,
in general.
yeah.
Isn't it funny how Chewy and GameStop actually have their results on the same day today? I mean, Ryan Cohen's
was that planned?
I don't think so. But I mean, that's originally why people were excited about GameStop. Look what he did at Chewy early on in Chewy's life. they thought he could do the same thing to GameStop, and that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, and he's now kind of the last person standing, right? He's basically the only adult out there right now.
Maybe he's too busy turning it around to have an earnings call.
Yeah, well, good
Has
for him.
anyone seen Dumb Money? I know I've asked this before.
Yeah.
No, we had the producers on
Yeah,
for Dumb Money. Yeah, interesting.
it was interesting. Exactly.
Did you like it?
I did. I really liked seeing the cameos of all of Bloomberg TV on there.
Boy.
Romaine was on there a few times.
All right.
Is that why
believe-
you're talking about this?
Oh, is that why?
Now I have to go see it.
Break it up.
I don't get enough Romaine. I have to.
And we thought you were such a
Watch the
shy
movie.
kind of guy.
Me? Have you met me?
Sarcasm. Sarcasm.
Hey, everybody say goodbye to Carol because you're not going to see her for a while.
Where? You're
Wait,
off?
Carol, you're off on vacation?
She's tight-lipped there. Who knows
Yeah,
where she's going?
she's
What's she
nodding.
up to?
I'm doing
Not great
the,
radio,
I'm
but
doing
she's
the
nodding.
not buying stuff and experiencing stuff.
Yes.
You know, like, you know.
Contributing to services.
You got it.
Services part of
Okay,
it.
well, don't forget, you have 3 people sitting next to you on the screen here who expect a little.
Do you like gifts? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, who doesn't? Particularly from a very
Au revoir.
valued friend and an associate.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
The sound's cutting out. All right, I gotta go. We gotta go. Otherwise, they're gonna
love
start
her.
yelling at us. Love you guys. Be well. Stay safe. All right, we'll see you. Cross platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals.
Goodbyes.
It's hard to say goodbye.